Hey there, listeners, and welcome to season 2 of Project Zero. Goals the same as last year. We're going to hear some stories from some of the greatest project leaders in the game. This season, though, we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to talk a little bit more about AI and the impact it's having on the industry. We have to, right? Everyone else is talking about it. And today, we have a little bit of a twist. We have a leader of a company as opposed to just a project manager. And so we're going to get a few different perspectives here. I'm really excited to have him on the show. My name's Alex Tuck, and I am the host. And I am here with CEO of SingleFin, Zack Tembi, also my college teammate and good friend. Welcome to the podcast, Zack.
Hey, what's up, Alex, and everybody in the Project Zero podcast community. Appreciate you having me on. I'm super excited to, obviously, we catch up quite a bit, but I was super excited to jump on the podcast here with you today, Alex.
Yeah, it's exciting. Having your perspective as a technology leader for the past couple of decades and hearing what the impact is of like project managers, project leaders on the engagements that you've had sitting across the aisle, it's going to be really helpful because sometimes we just get in our own silos and we think about, okay, we got to deliver this project, but we don't think about what the executives need and what leadership needs. So I'm really excited to hear your perspectives on this. Let's start off, Zack. Tell us a little bit about yourself and the work you do.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Alex. Yeah, as you mentioned, I'm the CEO of SingleFin. My background in getting into technology, I've been doing it for 2+ decades. I'm extremely passionate about helping build and grow startup companies. I'm not a big company guy. I've always worked for smaller startups and high growth companies. And I love the creativity. I love the craftiness that you have to have running a small company and working at smaller organizations. You really have to be super crafty and nimble. And like I found at big companies, it's just harder to get things done, right? So I've always gravitated towards startup companies. It's what I'm passionate about. And I was excited for today's conversation because through that journey and running SingleFin, we predominantly support Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies. These are large organizations helping solve their cybersecurity and infrastructure needs. And as we've gone through that journey, the project management role is extremely critical to success. The first part is really selling the vision and building the plan. But as far as like execution, I find it's like one of the most critical roles for company success, project success long term.
That's awesome. Yeah. I think especially as you move up market, like when you start delivering services for the larger organizations, the projects become much higher risk, more high stakes, lots more dollars going into it. And you're exactly right. Yeah, that's when the PMing really is pretty critical. Zack, remind me, what did you study in college?
Oh gosh, yeah, we're going back now. We're going to go back to the Roanoke College days. Primarily focused. I started business, then shifted to sports management, and then we met pretty early on in the journey, right? I think like first week on campus, which was awesome. Obviously, being on the same team, we spent a lot of time together, and that's probably part of the passion for like me working at startups. Like we were on a small team, a 25 person team, and really a lot of personalities. We worked hard. We had to put a lot of time and effort into our craft. A lot of fun, ups and downs, the peaks and valleys, good races, bad races on the track. It was such an enjoyable part. And like looking back on it, that's probably why I gravitated towards startup, is like those moments early on in college.
That's awesome. No, I love to talk about where people came from, especially you, Zack, because we're the same thing. Like finance, econ, like environmental science minor, like all these. That was what was fun about going to a liberal arts school. And you end up doing something completely different, right? But you get the passion from exploring and doing that stuff in college. So what did you do? What'd you do out of college? Where'd you start working?
Yeah, so I got out of college, finished up at Roanoke College, and then moved up to Washington, D.C. Planted roots, was still just trying to figure out my path in the world and what I wanted to do, and landed a job at a 50-person small startup firm called Netuitive. We were working with mostly Fortune 500 companies and helping solve some of their observability challenges that they were having. And that was definitely the bedrock, the foundation for where I was headed. That was a great spot to start my career because I worked with some really talented folks that were top 1% of their craft on the business side and really high performers. And I remember two of my two of the mentors, the guys that I worked for, they were New York City, pretty gruff, like demanding, high paced, high rolling individuals. And they didn't take anything less than a win. And they were really hard on me and beat me up pretty good and like really made me earn their trust in the early days. But I learned so much, still stay in touch with those guys, and they set me up for what I wanted to do in the future. Because I realized after working with these two senior guys that really knew their craft, that's what I wanted to aspire to be. I wanted to be a top kind of 1% of our craft.
That's awesome. Yeah. And you stayed in security, stayed in data for a while and dug in deep on data, right? Yeah. Where'd you go next?
Yeah, so I think the place that really elevated my career, I was an early employee at a company called Splunk. Yeah. When I was telling people like, yeah, I'm joining this small startup called Splunk, and they're like, what is that? What does that even mean? But we really, right timing, right technology, right place. We solved a very specific problem that most IT shops had and just had a phenomenal journey. I think when I joined, we were around 30 million in revenue. And then today, I think Splunk's at 3 or 4 billion in revenue. They got bought by Cisco for quite a lot. I think $28 billion, thousands of employees worldwide. So it was really fun just to go through that progression of an emerging company, but it wasn't all cookies and cake over there, right? Product would break. We'd go work and sign a partnership agreement with a Fortune 100 customer, super demanding, and have to navigate that. But again, we were able to get some success, build a brand name. That kind of set me up for future endeavors down the road.
That's awesome. And then how did you get to the place where you are today where you're like, hey, I want to start working at SingleFin? Like how did your involvement with SingleFin begin?
Yeah, it was definitely, I knew I wanted to build and run my own company from scratch. And it really originated from me talking to a few folks that I've worked with, high level of trust for 10 plus years. And we're all great graybeard guys and wanted to, number one, focus on our customers. What we came to, the core guys that I started SingleFin with, being on the vendor side and working for a high growth vendor can be pretty demanding. You've got to hit your revenue targets. There's a lot of focus on revenue targets and doing some blocking and tackling and putting pressure on your customers to accelerate projects. And we really wanted to live in a dynamic where we're focused on the customer themselves and making sure that they get to their end goal by sifting through a lot of the noise out there, especially with AI being adopted by many organizations. There is a lot of BS out there that like those companies don't do what's advertised. So we pride ourselves in working with the customer to reach those end goals and sift through some of the slop that they're encountering and helping them understand what's really going to provide value to their bottom line.
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't think I trust anyone that says they're an AI expert. Like in its own, I think there's really great vendors out there that understand parts and components of AI. It's crazy. Like people will find us they'll use Claude or something and then search for AI consultants and nonprofits, and somehow we're showing up in the top 3. And I'm like, let me just tell you, we are not AI experts at anything. We're like a project management shop. I don't know how we trick Claude, but what we do see is there's some really great folks that understand the security behind AI, like you guys, right? Or folks that can take you through an AI journey on selecting the right tools for your company or understanding the business goals that you're trying to achieve or making sure you have guardrails around AI, right? Like all those things. And I think there are a lot of companies out there that do things great in that specific area, but there's no such thing as a Goldilocks AI expert, I don't think. So tell us.
That's the beauty of it. There's the innovation is accelerated so much that what's relevant and valuable today won't be next week. It's just the nature of where we're at from an evolution standpoint.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The key with AI, like AI is just another one of the tools, right? Like it's crazy, like being a millennial and like growing up with technology. Like we're the first ones to have a computer in our house as kids, right? And it was like, wow, this is just a new technology. It's just like table stakes for us. It's, oh yeah, got a computer. Now you go from dial up to like faster internet. Now you got servers, you got cloud, you got all this different stuff. And now AI is just another tool for us. And so if you don't iterate constantly, you're never going to keep up with the changes.
Even 3 to 5 years ago, it used to take at least 6, 9, 12 months to build a beta enterprise ready software product. And today you could do that in a weekend.
Oh my
So
God.
it's truly unbelievable the pace at which innovation is happening. And the companies that want to win in today's climate, you have to embrace that innovation. And if you're not continuing to innovate, you're going to become obsolete at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy. That's an awesome point. Let's get into your Project Zero. So for the listeners out there who haven't listened before, Project Zero is that first project where things clicked. There were lots of high stakes with the project, and either as a project leader or an executive sponsor, you finally figured out like what success would look like with the project, right? You might have had a lot of failures in it, you might have had a lot of success in it, but you really had to work through it, and you realize, okay, there's some value with having real project management, real project leadership on the project. So Zach, what was your Project Zero where you encountered like an awesome PM that made the difference with the delivery?
Yeah, there's two, and I'm gonna pivot here. I know we talked about one earlier,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm gonna pivot here. So this was actually during COVID. So this is during COVID, and I was engaged and working with a large video game company, definitely a game folks have heard of, and they were getting ready to launch a new game. Again, completely remote, nobody's in person. Think about during COVID, the utilization of the game was double. Basically, they had enough traffic that was like their highest to their highest ever. That was their
Mhm.
normal traffic now that everybody was inside and not leaving their homes.
Interesting.
We were deploying the new game, and I worked with a true business partner. And this is like really where I really understood the value of a good project manager. I've had some bad ones before that really
Yeah.
didn't provide some value, but my guy Ian, I'm still good friends with Ian. And he was great too because he was very soft spoken, a matter of the fact. He was from the UK, so he had the accent and like very calming. And a lot of times we were dealing with very stressful situations, but just from a personality standpoint, he did such a great job of just getting everybody kind of calm and focused on the task at hand when emotions are involved. So that's one thing that I really liked about him. The other thing too that I think was extremely critical, and I look for this in any project managers that we work with at Singlefin or customer success folks that we work with, you want to make sure that communication across organizations is extremely focused and pertinent to that individual that you're working with. Myself, as a CEO of a company, I'm going to have a different view and perspective compared to maybe a software engineer, right? Who has a lot of pride and this thing works and this is how the customer wants it, but might not necessarily be that way. So, folks that are able to cross and definitely code switch between different levels of the organization to explain value, I think that's the most critical piece. And then just the ability to make sure that everybody is on the same page and we're focusing on a unified goal. I think that's the other kind of complex thing because, again, things are important to different folks in the organization. And the project manager really has to lead the charge to make sure we're on the right track to hit our goals.
Yeah, it's so funny. You said something earlier. I had a really great project manager, and I knew I had a couple of not great project managers before. It's really funny because, especially, and this is for all the project managers out there that are listening, right? The executive sponsors and the leaders that are sitting on the other side or up above, they are going to remember the bad PMs, and you'll remember the good PMs too, right? But it's so critical for us to get it right. I remember I was chatting with one of my friends, and none of your friends actually really know what you do in your day job, right? Yeah, they don't really know. So we were getting
Yeah,
in really.
we just do podcasts all day.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. That's
what
all we
we
do.
do. Yeah.
We were talking. She worked in the Fed space, and she's, "What do you guys do?" And we're like, "We're a project management consulting firm." And she's, "Yeah, but what do you actually do?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? You know what project management is, don't you?" She's like, "Yeah, I have project managers, and they're horrible. They just get in my way, and they ask me for task answers and stuff like that." And I'm like, "Oh, that's a really good point." And so the point you made, Zach, about this great PM that like was great at code switching in between the different groups, that is a learned skill, and you don't realize that you need that. And some people, they have the natural ability to switch between, you can be in the north or the south, and you can code switch that way too, right? But sometimes you have to code switch within an organization, talk to executives a certain way. They want certain information distilled, and then developers want things a different way. They just want you to make room for them to and get off their backs, right? And like figuring that out is a huge challenge. And a new PM is never going to figure that out, right? So no one should expect to be able to do that right out of the gates, but that's an important skill. I love that you brought that up, Zach. Tell me a little bit more about, was this PM that on this project, was he a technical PM? Like, did he get what the video game designers were working on, or was he more of a functional PM?
He had a good mix. That's the other
Yeah.
reason why I think we worked so well and had so much success with that particular project. He was able to really understand the technical piece and those requirements, and then working with folks like myself, really align those with some of the business metrics. Because at the end of the day, when we're speaking with the executives at this company, all they care about is we want 99.9% uptime on this game when it launches. We want it to be able to handle X amount of capacity and users. And as long as you guys could do that, you guys are good. If you guys do that, we're kicking you out. We did an excellent job, and Ian did an excellent job executing and making sure that we met those very stringent goals from the executives on the customer side. And then as we worked with our developers, because we went back to our team internally, and it's a typical group of San Francisco, very talented, best in class. They would put up a fight sometimes and be like, why do we need to do this? Why do we need to do this for the customer? We should be doing it this way. Zach, why don't you go to your job and go tell the customer we should be doing it this way? Sometimes the world doesn't work that way. It was a big juggling act, especially at that scale with the amount of folks who were engaged with on that project.
Yeah, I think video game design and development is one of those, it's one of those spaces that I love. That was your project. Yeah, I didn't even know that about you, Zach. I've had a couple of friends that work in the PM space in video games, big companies, probably similar to the one you're describing. And there is so much project management in it. Like it is unbelievable how important the PMs are in it. Some people call it product management, some people call it project management, some people call it program management. There's the infrastructure involved, there's the actual development of the game. Sometimes there's actually
Marketing.
stuff. Yeah, exactly. Oh, everything, right?
Yeah.
Security, everything. And it's such a great use case for where project management is so important, right? Because you have a release date, right? You have all your contracts and everything that you have to get things out. And it's a creative process too. So I love the mix of it. Cool. So tell me, where do you think AI is going to take project management over the next few years, or where has it already impacted it?
I think there's been a huge impact already, Alex. We're at Singlefin today. We have a really sophisticated, robust AI implementation today. I personally have about a dozen agents supporting my business. So think of, I've got an account manager agent that's monitoring our accounts. I've got a legal agent that does MSA, NDA reviews. We still have people contractors, but we're leveraging AI to accelerate and minimize a lot of those people costs that we do have. We've got a marketing agent that does all our social media and creates that content. So we've got these dozen agents that everyone at our company is interacting with. So I know there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear in the market around, hey, are these agents going to displace human roles? I think the opposite. I think it's going to be able to accelerate and help companies like Singlefin and Tuck Consulting Group really accelerate their operations, because we've already seen just huge gains. We're a smaller company, but we're operating at 10x our actual capacity. People think we're a big couple hundred person company. It's like, no, we're lean. We have really tight operations. And then because we took the steps to actually build this stuff internally, we've seen, oh yeah, this might be a security issue, or this might be an issue as you scale. Like we've got 12 agents today. We're planning to roll out 50, 60, 100 agents by the end of the year. So how do you manage all that? How do you make sure they're all secure? So going back to your question, I really think folks have to embrace using AI. The two areas that I would urge like folks to focus on, we talk a lot internally about skill development. So actually go out and build this stuff. Like even me as a CEO, I'm not like a technical person, but like I've sat down and I've tested Claude, I've tested Perplexity, I've tested some of these AI security platforms. Like actually sit down and do that and learn the skills and like what works, what doesn't. That's the first thing. Identify those use cases, test these products out, see if you could just get more time back in your day. If you don't have to, if you have an agent reminding you to follow up with a particular client or reminding you on an email or a project milestone, like that's great. Now, instead of you managing 5 customers, you could manage 30 customers, 40 customers, 50 customers. So test out this technology, use it in practice. And then the second thing that I urge folks to really think about from a skill perspective is like just more agency. And the PM role is like a really good role because most PMs have the most agency out of anybody in the organization. So it's set up to be successful with this AI wave. But again, have that agency where when you're working with a client or you're working with internally, hey, I built this agent out really quick. It's going to help us save time scheduling meetings or appointments. Why don't we try implementing this? Just continuing to innovate and create apps like that. If you're doing that and actually using the technology and bringing that to your team, that's how you're going to really be successful in this kind of next wave of technology innovation.
Love that. Zach, we need to compare notes on our agents because like similar thing, right? Because I have an agent in addition to the ones that you just described too. We have marketing consultants and we have a marketing agent and we use them both and we build them for our marketing consultants even, right? So like we have content that's being created. But my favorite agent right now is I have one, it's called my focus agent. And every single morning it sends me my top 5 tasks that I need to focus on for the day, puts in my personal priorities and schedules it for me. And as a CEO, it's such a time saver and it's more accurate than your memory or your notes or any of that kind of stuff is going to be, especially if you take the time to tune it. And I love your advice about even as the CEO, you're going to sit down and you're going to use it and you're going to build and you're going to test the tools. Look, that's not what you're going to do every single day, all day, right? That's what your team's way better at doing that. But being able to understand the capabilities of what is possible is unbelievable. And plus, I know how you're more of a functional guy than a technical guy too. You're very technical and you're underselling your capabilities, but we aren't that technical, right? And so what this AI wave has allowed for us to do, all these tools that are hitting the market, is it allows for a little bit of a democratization for the functional folks, the people that are good at talking to people and synthesizing information. I think that's great. And we still need the technical folks too to do the hard work. Yeah, I love that advice, Zach. What's the coolest way you've seen AI be used? Like any application, any industry?
Oh, cool. There's so many, Alex. The area that I'm most excited about is definitely like medical and healthcare, identifying cancer and like solving some of these like very complex healthcare issues. It's super expensive right now for folks in America. If there's a way that we can make it cheaper, more accurate, that's what I'm most excited about. I think the more applicable use case that we're using at SingleFin, I think it's really helped us with our customers and internally. We think of agents as employees at the end of the day, right? So like our agents, they have names, they have emails, they have access to teams. What that allows us to do is it changed my thinking where I could treat these agents like an employee. So a systems analyst might only have access to XYZ data in our environment. We're not going to give them access to everything. So it helped us build our security controls and then also get folks that aren't accustomed to working with agents if they're working with an actual person. So somebody emails and says, hey, we want to schedule this meeting. Hey, let's loop in the scheduling agent via email. And that just gets them accustomed to working with that agent. We have one-on-ones with our agents. So I have development sessions usually on a weekly basis where I focus on training them on specific skills or tasks. So I do that with majority of the agents. So I think just that evolution, like that is just amazing to me. Like it is amazing that now I can build these very useful employees that are working 24/7, 365. And then we still have to spend time with them. We still have to really curate their skills and do that. I think that's the coolest part about it. There's no magic thing that you're just going to throw in there. There's still work that has to be done to really get value out of it. But that gets me excited, right? Because I see as soon as a new model comes out that could do more capabilities, I'm like, whoa, now we could do like these dozen more things that I hadn't even thought about before.
I love it. Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting. I had Sean Harris on my pod last week, and he has an AI project manager, project coordinator called Harmony. He started this company, Co-worked, and same concept, right? One email set up in Microsoft. It's got 200 plus agents behind it, right? And this is just basically the orchestration agent. But you email them, they email you, they Teams you, they do whatever. And I think that change, that switch in mentality of thinking about, I love that you specifically mentioned, the role-based access and only granting access based on the needs of that particular agent. I think that's really important. And not only is it great from a security perspective, but it limits the scope of what they have access to. And so it makes them more accurate too. And so I think that that's so smart to think about it that way. And that's actually not something that we're doing here. And I definitely want to think about that a little bit more, because that's a brilliant way to think about it and integrate it into your organization.
Yeah, you're going to have your finance person, you're going to have your salesperson. Why not train your agents in a similar fashion? Like we want to make sure this finance agent is the best possible agent. He's only just thinking about finance 24/7. That's it. We don't want him to taint any of his analysis with sales data or marketing information. We'll silo that out, let the marketing agent take care of that.
Love that.
And have them work together, right? So if there's like a cross-platform question that I have, hey, I'm going to email the marketing agent, the finance agent. Hey, you guys work together, figure the outcome that I'm trying to get to. How much should we spend on marketing next year? Okay, I want the finance and the marketing agent to work together. What worked last year? What sort of events? And they'll go back and forth, like two employees going back and forth. It's pretty amazing.
That's awesome. That's cool. Yeah. And just constantly tuning, right? Because you'll see something that you're like, what the heck? Why did it respond this way? And that's where the human in the loop really is important, right? Like you need to be able to see, like, why are these folks making these decisions? I say folks, but why are these agents? We're already talking about like humans. Why are they making these decisions, and what kind of behavior modification do we need to make? Just like an employee, like a young employee, right? Hey, why'd you send this email to the client this way? You should change your language, the way you communicate, to this way. It's the same thing with agents, right? So cool stuff. All right. How can people get in contact with you, Zack?
Yeah. Great. Good question. So you can find us on LinkedIn. So if you search for Single Fin, we should pop up. Hit my name right here, right there, somewhere. But find me on LinkedIn. And then if you want to just hear insight, so the best way is we have a weekly newsletter called CIOsurge.com. So if you go to that website and subscribe, you'll see weekly insights from SingleFin, how we're helping our customers, how we're innovating with AI, what's important to technology executives as a whole. And then we host some cool events throughout the country. We did an event in New York City, LA recently. We're doing an F1 event down in Miami in a couple weeks with a few technology leaders. Hit us up on CIOsurge.com and reach out with questions. I love to talk shop. I love to nerd out. So don't hesitate to reach out.
That's awesome. I can vouch for it. I've been a CIO Surge subscriber for a while now, and I can't believe the insights you're getting from some of the top CIOs in the country, Zach. It's incredible. So it's a really great resource. Whether you're early in your career with CIOs as a CIO or aspiring CIO, or if you even are a CIO, there's a lot to learn from there. And obviously Zach's insights as well. So Zach, thank you so much for being on the show. Loved all the ideas that you shared. We talked so much about AI. This is exactly what I was hoping for with this season. And I love the perspective that you gave as an executive and as a leader of PMs and technologists. I think it's really important for us as project leaders to hear that other perspective as well. And you get it. You understand the value that comes with project management. So really appreciated that.
Yeah, I appreciate all the project managers out there, right? It's one of those almost behind the scenes, but like such a critical role. Every single partnership we had a big win. There was always some sort of project manager behind that success. So keep doing your thing, keep using AI, get more productive, get more innovative with any AI solutions. And I'm just excited for the future of PM.
That's awesome. Cool. Thanks, Zach. And thanks to all of you who listened to us at Project Zero this week. Be sure to subscribe to Project Zero wherever you get your podcasts, and we will catch you next time with another great project leader story.